You're listening to Cosmic Cousins Soul-Centered Astrology. For grounding your ass from all the new age sass. I am your host, Jeff Hinshaw. Season 4 of Cosmic Cousins is dedicated to honoring the interconnectedness of our universal family through embodied health, self-discovery, and deeper learning. Hey cousins, welcome back to another week of the show. I am sipping on some tea right now, and I'm feeling super gentle this morning. This Libra new moon energy was both very peaceful and also raw at the same time. And now we're feeling into the Scorpio moon that we have today, if you're listening to this recording live, which is October 10th, 2018. And so the moon is in Scorpio today, and it is saying what's up to Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter, which all three of these planets are also in Scorpio. And so it feels like a major release happening for us all. And also there's a preparation for the deep soul purging of Scorpio season that is about a week and a half away from now. And so with all these planets in Scorpio, we could start to be feeling into it a little bit, but we are still shining this Libra light. And so today the sun finds itself at the 17th degree of Libra and moves all the way to the 24th degree of Libra throughout the week. And so any planets you have at these degrees, or if you're midheaven, your ascendant, IC, or descendant are at these lines, take particular note. Mercury moved into Scorpio yesterday, which was October 9th, and so conversations may tend to get a little bit deeper, darker, more intense this week, right? Mercury is the planet of communication and intellectualization, and so this is also a time where we might be perceiving things that are in the darkness. So this could be perceiving things in our subconscious mind and starting to become aware of particular psychological patternings that we might have, right? We might also be aware of it in other people since it's Libra sun. We're very aware of other people at this time, and so we might have a tendency to want to read in to what people are doing and saying. If this is the case, drop the urge to do that. So the planets are lining up in this way that's kind of preparing us for what's to come with Scorpio season, because Venus is also in Scorpio and she's in retrograde, and so she's heading back to Libra, but she'll be in Scorpio all week. And so this can also call for a time of deep longing. Venus is the planet of relationship, and it is the ruling planet for this season that we're in, Libra season. And so with it in retrograde and in Scorpio, there is it's a time of deep longing. And we could also say that Sun in Libra, there may be this sort of balancing act, right, between the longing for intimacy and also the fear of intimacy. And so our relationships may be like mirrors right now. And so whatever's being reflected back to you at this time, it's an opportunity to witness and see. And so whatever relationships you're in, whatever dynamics you're in, allow yourself to breathe into the vulnerability of being seen at this time. And that's exactly what we're going to be working on and focusing on today for this week's episode in honor of Libra season, because Libra connects us to interpersonal relationships. So we're going to start with a guided meditation that is about healing relationships. Then we're going to be talking about relationships in astrology, how to use the signs when they line up with one another. And so this could be romantic relationships, this could be business, family, friendship, whatever, it doesn't matter. We're going to be talking about the way the elements line up with one another. There's 4 elements in astrology, so we're going to break it down in those 4. And this is such a deep topic. I mean, there's so many different ways because there's also modalities. There's cardinal, fixed, mutable. We're not going to be looking at those today. I might do a webinar at some point to look at relationships through the lens of modalities. We can also look at the tiers of astrology, So there's the first tier, which is personal signs, which is Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. Then there's interpersonal, which is then Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio. And then there's cosmic, is what I like to call them, which is community-oriented or a big picture focused, which is Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. So you can also say, what is it like for a interpersonal sign to date a cosmic sign, or to be in a relationship with, or to be in a partnership with? We're not going to be looking at that today. We'll just be looking at the elements, which is going to take up a good chunk of our time. And so I'm excited to get into that. And it's my hopes that by looking into how the elements line up with one another relationally, that you'll then be able to bring a deeper understanding to your relationships, and also bring healing to them as well. And so we have that to look forward to. And then I'm going to update you on the Queen of the Zodiac, Queen of Libra. We're down to the Final Four. So I'll be announcing that today. And then to round off this heartfelt, intimate episode off, we'll be sitting down with an actual married couple. Husbands Brandon Alter and Angel Lopez, who are both incredible astrologers. Brandon is an Aquarius. Angel is a Aries. And so they're both very well versed in their astrology vocabulary. They're both healers. They're mystics based out of Los Angeles, and they collaborate as the co-host to the podcast The Spiritual Gayz, which is a twice-monthly podcast dedicated to exploring the wide reaches of spirituality without pretending that it all makes sense. And so you'll want to stay tuned for that conversation at the end. But before we get into all of that, let's start by bringing the awareness to the breath with a little meditation. So here on Cosmic Cousins, we start off each episode always bringing it back to the body and to the breath. And so since it's Libra season, we can start by taking a deep, nourishing inhale into the kidneys, the lower back, which is the part of the body associated with Libra. And so since this episode is dedicated to understanding relationships in astrology, our meditation today will focus on bringing healing to someone in your life. But of course, we'll start with the self. Always starting with the self when we're working with Libra energy. Libra in soul-centered astrology evolves through the sign of Aries, which is the sign of the self, and I am. And so we'll start with the self. So breathe into the heart chakra. So the heart chakra is the center of the chest. It's the lungs, the upper back. And so just start by taking an inhale here into the heart. The heart chakra is the center of relationship and love. And so as you connect in here, connect to that part of you that is light. And so soul-centered Libra is connecting us to the light within. And so you can even visualize white light here in the center of the chest. And when all of your titles and your stories are stripped away, what we find here is the light that dwells within. It's your essence, it's your spirit, it's whatever word works for you to connect with this spirit that is inside, that lives within. That it's anahata, right, is the Sanskrit word for the heart, and it means unstruck or unhurt. And so it's this purification. And so this light holds this purifying vibration of forgiveness, of truth, a uniting truth, of love. And so breathe that into the heart. Connect to this essence. You can visualize a white light here. And so connect to that part of yourself that always lives, is holy. And when you've made that connection, you can place both hands on your heart and just breathe here. And now you can call to your heart and into your mind another person in your life. And so maybe your best friend is popping up. Maybe it's someone you feel really grateful for. Perhaps you're in a committed or a romantic relationship. You could bring that person to mind as well. Maybe it's a family member or a business partner. Or perhaps someone's coming up for you that you're having a difficult time with. Whoever it is that's coming through, trust that this is exactly who you're meant to see. And if you're like me, I'm feeling into the Libra vibes, and I can think of about 5 people that I could use some healing in my relationship with. And so if that's the case, know that this is a recording and you can always come back to it and try it with someone else. But for now, let's call to mind just one person. And I'd like for you to commit to this experience with them. And so I'd like for you to visualize them sitting in front of you. And imagine that you're gazing into their eyes. And then connect back to that light that you felt within yourself. And then can you sense into the light that's within them when all of their titles, their roles, their stories are stripped away? And so you can visualize there's a white light shining from their heart now too. And if you're able, place your non-dominant hand on your heart and then extend your dominant hand out and imagine that you're placing it on their heart. And just notice what this slight change in your body language feels like for you. What does it bring up for you? If any emotions arise, be there with them. Be present with them. And you can say to them, I see you, and then take a deep breath. I feel you. Take another breath. And then finally, I love you. And then take a deep breath. So it's I see you, I feel you, I love you. If there's any forgiveness that needs to take place, allow that to happen. You can visualize their spirit, their essence says to you, I see you, I feel you, I love you. And connect to them through this holy love. This is Libra's gift, this connection, and what we're gifted with this time of year. And if it feels right, if you're able to in this moment, I'd like you to continue this hand gesture, one hand on your heart and one hand on the person in front of you's heart. And so you can actually do this in person with someone too. Or you can visualize it. But I'd like you to continue this hand gesture as we listen to Light of the Holy Spirit by India.Arie. And so India.Arie is a Libra herself, giving us some high vibe, soul-centered Libra through her work and her offerings and music. And India.Arie listens to the show and has given us permission to listen to the full length of her songs from her album Songversation Medicine during Libra season. And so feel the peaceful power of Libra wash over and bless you and your relationship. And so we'll tune into that now.
There is a light, a holy light. There is a light, a holy light. There is a light, a holy light. there is a light that is shining for you, coming in to make you whole. Is shining for you, coming in to make you whole. There is a love, a holy love. There is a love. There is a love, a holy love. There is a love that is shining for you, coming in to make you whole. It's shining for you, coming in to make you whole. There is a peace, a holy peace. There is a peace. There is a peace, a holy peace. There is a peace that is shining for you, coming in to make you whole. Is shining for you, coming in to make you whole. The Holy Spirit is all around you. The Holy Spirit, oh, Holy Spirit is all around you. The Holy Spirit is shining for you, coming in to make you whole. Is shining for you, coming in to make you whole.
And so, what a beautiful introduction for us to be heading into our talk on understanding relationships and astrology. And it is really setting us up nicely to be connecting with the highest of the signs and also to connect with the soul-centered aspects of the signs. And so, first, thank you, India.Arie, for your gifts to this world and for blessing us with your peaceful words and for allowing us to listen to your music on the show. Before we get into talking about the signs and how they line up relationally, I would like to just make a few announcements. So first, hey, I live in Los Angeles and I'm an astrologer. I offer readings over the internet, recorded MP3 recordings, and also over the phone is a new offering that I'm having for those that have booked birth chart readings with me. You can then check back in with me through a phone conversation. And so that's now available. If you've booked a reading with me and you feel like it's time for a check-in with transits and things like that, you can reach out to me. You can find my information at astrologycousins.com, or you can shoot me an email at jeff@brooklynfools.com. And I think that's all I have for announcements today, actually. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. You can also sign up for the Patreon for this show, which is patreon.com/cosmiccousins. There are no new Patreon supporters this week, but we have a bunch of Patreon supporters that I just want to say thank you again for your continued support. And I usually say this at the end of the show, but if you'd like to leave a 5-star rating, that would really help. And And also, if you'd like to leave a review, that would be really cool too. If you've been tuning into the show for a while and you like what you've been hearing, then just leave a review on the iTunes. And so, yeah, now that we got that out of the way, we can go into our topic for this week's episode. And so, let's do that now. So, relationships form the most fundamental aspect of our lives. They reveal the innermost part of ourselves and who we are, and they act as a mirror. And so synastry is a tool that you can use in astrology to look at the two charts together. And that's a bit too complex to get into all of the details of the way that might work in a chart. But one way you can do it is you can line the charts up with one another based off of the zodiacal wheel. So, for instance, if you're an Aries rising and you're in a relationship, doesn't even have to be romantic, but you're like wanting to look at a partnership with someone who is a Libra rising, Libra's on the other side of the wheel, and so we'll turn the wheel a complete 180 degrees, so that your Aries energy is lining up with one another. So that's how the synastry would work. And so there's complex dynamics, and you would look at how your planets are communicating with their planets and all the aspects. And so I think it's really important to first understand your birth chart before you go into someone else's. But since I've received a lot of questions from others in regards to relationships, I thought that we could kind of just skim the surface on this week's episode during Libra season. And so what we're going to be doing is we'll be looking at how the elements line up with one another. And so this is such a wonderful opportunity in of itself to just understand the element of your sun sign and how that might affect your relationships in this world. And so there's 4 elements, as you all know. We've got fire, earth, air, water. It always goes in that order when we're looking at the astrological wheel. And so I thought we'd go in that order. And so let's start with fire signs. So fire signs, this is our Aries, this is our Leo, this is our Sagittariuses. And so what do they hold in common, right? The element of fire. So they all have a spark of life and independence to them. It's really helpful to think about the elements. So like fire itself, fire signs tend to be uplifting. And so you can think about the times when you light a candle, right? Or even when you hold a candle. When are these moments in your life? And so this can be in times where you're wanting to maybe wind down and you light a candle in your room. And so fire signs don't necessarily always have to be about action, but there is an uplifting quality about them, right? And usually I think of candles as they're there and as solo, like that independence, right? Doesn't always have to be that way, but just thinking about, even if you have 10 candles lit in your room, they're each individuals. They're each shining their own life. I often think of times when I light candles as when I'm kind of wanting to set the mood. And so if you're having a dinner party, for instance, you're going to set the mood by lighting some candles. Or maybe you want to make it a bit more passionate and romantic in your bedroom. And so just by lighting one candle even, it's going to greatly shift the energy of the room. And so this is the power that fire signs hold. Other times that we light candles would be during ceremonies or at vigils, to memorialize someone's life. So there is a very reverent energy to the flame in and of itself. You can also think of times where you might gather around a fire with other people, the kinds of conversations you might have. And so fire signs remind us that life is worth living, that life goes on. Aries is always following fire is always following water. And so Aries follows Pisces. And so Aries is the beginning of the new cycle, whereas Pisces is the end of a cycle. So Aries is reminding us of new life. Leo follows Cancer and is reminding us that we are children separate from our mothers. Cancer was about intergenerational healing, and then Leo is saying, now I'm going to take care of my inner child here. And then Sagittarius follows the death and release of Scorpio. And so Sagittarius is optimism, expanding, reaching towards the future. And so the fire signs in their highest are here to uplift us, keep us warm. You can also talk about the other side of them, which we'll talk a little bit about the maybe the lower manifestation of it. But fire can also be temperamental. You can think about trying to start a fire, right? Fire burns out really quickly. It can be hard to start a fire. It needs fuel to keep it going. And even then it can experience like a burnout. But also fire has the ability to regenerate its power from the ashes. And so a single spark can set off a forest fire even. And so as a result, fire signs need to be nurtured, and maybe we could say managed carefully, so that they're not burning out. Fire signs need to have attention. This is something we could say that would be true for all three of the fire signs in their different ways. And so if you're in a relationship with a fire sign, know that they might actually need to be fueled or uplifted. And oftentimes we'll look to fire to lead the way. You can think of a torch in the forest leading the way in the darkness. And so this isn't always the case, but fire signs are really associated with leadership too. And so how do the elements line up with fire? So air with fire. I couldn't find examples of couples for every combo. I would like to do that at some point, but it was taking me quite some time. But air with fire, I have some examples here. Angelina Jolie is a Gemini, air sign, and Brad Pitt is a Sagittarius, it's fire. Britney Spears is a fire sign, and Justin Timberlake is an air sign. Britney Spears is a Sag, Justin Timberlake is an Aquarius. And so Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears, although these aren't examples for like long term, there is a passion to this combo and like a quality of being beheld. And so air really helps bring expansion to fire's life. So this is new thoughts, this is new ideas. There's a definite sense of adventure with the air and fire combo, but we're talking specifically about what does air bring to fire. And so air brings out fire's more whimsical and maybe childish nature. And so air can also help fire to align themselves with a more uniting truth, so that they're not just acting without putting some thought into it. And so it's important for air to remember fire needs stimulation. Air might be up in their heads and their thoughts and visions, and so air needs to remember to spend quality time with fire as well. And so I paired there's 16 court cards in the tarot, and when fire is in a relationship with air, I said they're the Page of Wands. And so the way I got that is Wands is fire, and then when we add air to it, I use pages as air. So I feel like fire in an air relationship is Page of Wands. What is it like when Earth is with fire? So Earth can actually be quite resourceful and fueling for fire, helping them to manifest. Earth encourages fire to be the fierce leader that they are. And so Earth benefits when it allows fire to think that they are in charge, but really Earth knows that it's their loving, nurturing ability to create form that allows fire the platform. And so some examples here: Michelle Obama is an Earth, Barack Obama is a fire, Michelle Obama is a Capricorn, Barack Obama is a Leo. Jay-Z is a Sagittarius and Beyonce is a Virgo. And then David Beckham is an Earth and Victoria Beckham is a fire. David Beckham's a Taurus, Victoria Beckham's an Aries. And so, again, Earth benefits when it allows fire to think that they are in charge. So Michelle benefits when she allows Barack to feel like he's in charge. Beyonce benefits when she allows Jay-Z to feel like he's in charge. David Beckham benefits when he allows Victoria to feel like she's in charge. That's what I sense with this. So there is a sense they're both that hold the ability to create form with passion together. And so these two benefit when they learn to bring romance into their life, to communicate about their emotions, since there's no air or water here. That might be tricky for them. And also to check in about their shared vision, to continually check that they're on the same page, since fire is going to go forward and earth is going to build. And so it's important that they communicate where they're heading as well. Water with fire. Water can bring fire magic into their life, right? Fire is really pulled in by the mystery of water. And so there's also a sense of humor that will pervade here as well. So water brings romance and otherworldly natures to fire. But yeah, just think magic, right? So fire and water coming together is the alchemical process. And so water teaches fire to trust in their intuition, to touch base to their emotions and what is fueling their fire. And so it's important for water to not get too emotional, right? Because that can put fire's water out. Don't become too emotionally dependent, water signs, if you're with fire. And so Ricky Ricardo and Lucille Ball. Ricky Ricardo is a Pisces and Lucille Ball is a Leo. Elizabeth Taylor is a Pisces and Richard Burton is a Leo. And so this is one of the most dramatic romances of Hollywood, with their on and off relationship. And then another, so Ricky Ricardo, Lucille Ball, Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton, and then Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera. This is like, it's a pretty like emotional pairing. So Frida Kahlo is the Cancer, Diego Rivera is a Sagittarius. And then another one is Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. Hillary is a Scorpio, Bill Clinton is a Leo. And so I found a lot of examples of that water-fire combo. Fire with fire. Oh my gosh. Fire with fire is full speed ahead. This is our Knight of Wands. So I'll kind of rewind because I forgot to remind you. Queen of Wands would be what fire is like in a relationship with water. And then King of Wands would be what fire is like in a relationship with earth. Barack Obama, King of Wands. Or then Queen of Wands would be water with fire. And so that would be Diego Rivera or Bill Clinton is like the Queen of Wands in that relationship. And then fire with fire would be the Knight of Wands, right? And so they can fuel each other with their confidence and their drive. It's very passionate. It's very heated. And again, with this, it's important for them both to explore air, their polar signs. So clear communication is important here. Make sure they have a shared vision and purpose so they're not just like heading off in like another direction without having some sort of idea of where they're going. So that's our fire signs. And then we have our earth signs, which is our Tauruses, our Virgos, our Capricorns. And so earth signs, they're dubbed as our down-to-earth ones, our grounded ones. And we can say that's pretty true for earth. Earth signs understand their body, their homes, their beauty, the beauty of nature, the things that they belong, finances. They're great at manifesting, structuring, laying out foundations. And so there's often more of a slow and steady energy that is associated with earth signs. And so in relationships, earth signs are loyal and stable. They stick by their people through hard times, right? Beyonce is a Virgo, sticking with Jay-Z. On good days, they're practical and reliable. But earth signs can also become stuck or too focused on logistics and routine. And something earth signs don't often get noted for is that they are quite nurturing and very supportive to their lovers. And so an earth sign is probably going to cook for you or massage you or, I don't know, do your finances for you. Some sort of act of service the earth signs love. And so I actually think it's really important to give this back to earth signs. Anyone that's with an earth sign, make sure that you're pulling your weight, because an earth is going to support you. Fire with earth, what's this look like? So we talked about what earth brings to fire. Remember, this is what Michelle Obama brings to Barack Obama. Here, it's what does Barack Obama bring to Michelle? So what does fire bring to earth? And so fire brings to earth new excitement and spontaneity. And these two can make quite a passionate pair. It's important here for fire to share the same values as earth, so it doesn't go off in the direction of fire's desire. And so earth is here to manifest and create something, and so fire will help to fuel this, right? They fuel each other, and so it's important for fire, as much as they often lead the way, to take a back seat from time, to trust in earth's leadership potential. So Barack trusting in Michelle. Because it may not always come in the form of charisma for earth signs, which it does for fire signs. So it's important for earth to be very aware that earth is also a leader. So practical planning for the future is great here. For more resources is something that fire can do to really get earth turned on there. And then we've got air to earth. So fire to earth, this would be, if earth is in a fire relationship, this would make them the Knight of Pentacles. Air to earth, air to earth. So earth in this relationship would feel like the Page of Pentacles. And so air signs bring to earth expansive thoughts, genius ideas. So when these two come together, they're unstoppable at manifesting. Communication could be an issue here. If air remembers that earth doesn't always want to communicate what's going on, this will be helpful. And so if air can get out of their head and help earth build, this will be great. This combo is Jada Pinkett Smith is an earth sign. Will Smith is an air sign. So we're saying here that Will Smith is bringing to Jada genius ideas and thoughts. And so they're unstoppable manifesting together. Oprah Winfrey to Gail. So Oprah's bringing genius thoughts to Gail to build upon. Sunny and Cher. Sunny is bringing genius thoughts to Cher, we could say here, to build. So this combo makes earth signs feel a bit more youthful, to be sure. Air can bring some youth to the earth. And so you can think of air coming in and blowing leaves around, which is kind of gives us that playful feel. This could also be a bit triggering for earth. So it's important for air not to come in and fuck earth shit up. But if earth remembers to let go, there's a beautiful balance between work and play that can take place with these two. And there's also ability to communicate truth within form that this would create as well. What is water like in an earth relationship? And so water brings earth nourishing energy. These are complementary signs. And so you can think plants need water to grow. So this is a wonderful combo for being parents or having a family or maybe even a business together. It's important, again, for water not to overwater the earth, because that can get kind of muddy and murky, and earth might actually like it, might actually like to go into these other realms. So water can allow earth to kind of escape from their duties. And so it's important for water to contain their water energy. In some ways, I'm not saying to compromise who you are, but to just know that earth might need to have some routine in their life. And so if you can find the more watery energy within routine, that would be great. Earth in an earth relationship. So when earth and earth come together, this is the most grounded, obviously, of all relationships. This is the most long-lasting and solid. In the lower form, this could be coming stuck in their ways, but in its highest form, it's quite loyal. This is the King of Pentacles here, and so it's quite generous. And so these two need to learn to balance out with water. So I would say when earth and earth come together, if it's a romantic relationship, to have a little bit of romance and sexuality in their life, this will help. If it's not romantic, if it's just a friendship, watching movies together, going on long walks by the water, going swimming together, taking baths together to like kind of, they're going to build together. They make great business partners, but if we're wanting to like evolve the relationship, exploring all the reaches of water would be great. And so that's our earth signs. Then we have air. Our air signs. So air signs, this is Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. Air signs are all about communicating their truth, connecting to truth, connecting others to truth, because it's about relationships, interpersonal relationships, relationships with the self, relationships with the collective. And so the winds of change, you can think, like when a strong gust hits you, you're probably going to move, or your clothes are going to move, or something's going to happen. Air signs are also, it's connecting us to the breath. And so air signs remind us to breathe. Air signs bring everyone a breath of fresh air when things start to get stale. And so you can think like the breeze. We can't see the air, we can't see the wind, but we know it's there. And so you can never quite catch air signs. There is like an elusive, or like kind of like a maybe whimsical is not the right word. What's the word I'm trying to think of here with air signs? It's just, there is a flowing nature to it, but air is all around us. And so air signs are connecting us as well. We all share the same air, right, when we breathe. And so what does fire bring to an air? Whew, this is complementary, to be sure. Fire brings air true romance. This is untamed and unstoppable. Fire helps air's spirit soar into the unknown. And so that place over the hill where truth and beauty awaken. Fire teaches air to be wild and untamed. Fire teaches air to be themselves, to not be so worried about other people, to do their own thing. And so this could also be volatile energy too. We can think when air and fire come together, it can really like get crazy. But fire and air need one another. Fire definitely needs air, we could say. But if the two, they need to share a similar connection to truth, a similar connection to justice. It's important for fire and air to also share similar friends, I think, as well. Otherwise, one of them could get aggravated. And so fire can help air to elicit great change. And so we already looked at these, but that would be like Brad Pitt is the one that awakens passion within Angelina Jolie, for instance. And so, yeah. Water with air. Water with air is the Queen of Swords. And so this is a combo that is powerful but also peaceful. Water and air. Both of these elements, we think taking a deep breath in and then giving yourself a nice shower. So this is kind of like a waterfall. We can get into the waterfall feels here. Water reminds air to move into its theories and ideas, to get out of the I think and more into the I feel. And so water teaches air to be a bit more intuitive with their gifts. It's important for water to not take things too personally with air signs, and for water to come back to their own reflection. So it's important for these two to communicate their emotions, to be sure. Grounding some energy might be nice here too, since we're lacking some earth. And so for these two to get together, they could maybe get lost in fantasy worlds. And so grounding the earth with earth energy, going out to eat and eating something healthy. What's earth like with air? Earth brings air structure and stability to their genius ideas. This is Gail to Oprah Winfrey. Gail's earth, Oprah Winfrey is air. This is Jada Pinkett Smith, earth to Will Smith's air. This is share earth to Sunny's air. And so earth brings air structure and stability and strategy. It's definitely what Gail does for Oprah, for sure. And so you can think of a house here with a window open and the breeze is moving through. So earth grounds air. It helps contain their wild ideas, but it also helps air to step up to the plate to be an authority to who they truly are. So this is, in this relationship, air is the king of swords. And so it's important for earth to remember to let air breathe, to give them space to be free. Earth also needs to remember the art of compromise and to say how much they appreciate air for their innovative ideas. Because earth is creating form, and so the ideas or the philosophies or the communications or whatever it is that air is creating isn't in the physical form. And so earth could maybe forget that and be like, well, look at everything that I have, that I've manifested. What have you manifested? Air's not here to manifest earth. It's here to manifest upgrading our connection to relationships and archetypes and those sort of things. So earth, remember that about your airs. Air with air. Oh my gosh, air with air. This is such an exciting, playful, whimsical energy. They're always learning something new together. The ability to talk about literally nothing and also everything. And so these two come together in a way that they're creating ideas for days. So there's an inside jokes that they might hold. They have their own language. Kanye West and Kim Kardashian are both air. Kanye is a Gemini, of course, and Kim is a Libra. Yoko Ono and John Lennon are both air. Yoko's an Aquarius, John's a Libra. Ellen DeGeneres and Portia are both Aquarius. That's pretty cool. And then Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani are both air. Blake is Gemini, Gwen is Libra. And so these two people together might be doing their own thing. Like they have their own language and they know how to talk with one another, and they're probably quite social together. Like they bring out socialization in one another if they're different air signs. If they're the same, like Portia and Ellen are both Aquarius, so they might be anti-social together. That would just be a guess, but they're great in group energies, but they might not want to be in group energies. And so I think with all the signs, when they're like in the same element, it's nice if they're in a different element, for sure. Like two Libras together would be interesting, but not to say, actually, like when it's the same sign, that's a whole nother thing. It's actually quite a beautiful combo, because it means you're shining a light to one another. You're acting as a reflection to one another. And so, yeah, it's important for airs when they come together to not get lost in their heads. And when they disagree, it's important to be open and honest with one another and not keep it from one another. And so that's our air signs. And then we'll go into our last one, which is our water signs. And so water signs, it's Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. And so these are the signs that are deeply compassionate, they're empathic, intuitive, very sensitive. Right, water can be as deep as the ocean, and so there is a mysteriousness at times to the water signs, but water is also refreshing and helps us to clean and purify. And so you can think of times where you might use water in a ritual. And so really think about the elements, like fire would be a candle on your altar. Earth would be flowers or crystals on your altar. Air on your altar would be the energy that's in and around it, and also the people gathering around the altar. And then water would be if you have like a bowl of water that you're going to bless one another with. This would be the energy of water. And so water is refreshing and it helps us to clean and purify. When we're by the water, this is often going to be times where we share our emotions. Maybe we get a little bit dreamy. It's romantic to be by the water, right? Fire, it's romantic to light a fire. to have candles lit. But water is a different kind of romance, so feel into that. But earth can also be romantic too if you're like massaging another person. And air can be romantic if you're syncing up your breath together. And so all signs are romantic if we're talking about relationships, but water signs, to be sure, give us the romance feels, the dreamy feels, the poetic. And so, but also water can dampen the mood. They can dampen things. They can bring things down easily. And so it's important for water to understand this within themselves, and to use their water energy in a way that is for cleansing and healing. And so fire with water. So fire brings out that romantic side in water for sure. So fire knows how to charm water, knows how to boost up water's confidence in themselves so that they can be the magical, mysterious, emotional, creative person that they are. Again, fire and water are the alchemical process. So while water brings fire a sense of magic, what is fire bringing water? So fire brings water the energy to take action with their watery gifts. And so it's important for fire to take into consideration water's feelings and emotions before taking action. So Lucille Ball, to Ricky Ricardo, Lucille Ball, it's important for her to take into consideration Ricky Ricardo's emotions before taking action, right? It's important for Diego Rivera to take into consideration Frida Kahlo's emotions before taking action. So we can definitely feel that with this combo here. Air with water. What does air bring water in a relationship? So whereas fire is going to bring confidence to water, air brings to water a complete trust in their gifts. Air is like a cheerleader for water. Air is reminding water to connect to their highest truths. There's a sense of devotion. Air can be very devoted to water. And so this can be a very spiritual combination, very angelic. There's a sense of innocence that air might bring to water. Water stores memory and emotion in the past and ancestral energy. And air is more, Air is more looking towards the future. And so air can help to purify the murkiness with truth of what is your truth as an individual, separate from what you're feeling. And so air can help water to decipher what is feeling versus fact. And so it's important for air to be aligned with their highest truth, though, because if air is not, air can actually make water feel quite crazy. And so this could be a combo. Air could maybe make water like, there could be a sense of gaslighting that could occur here. Air could tell water like anything, and water might be like really hurt by that. That's just what's coming to me right now. Earth with water, and that's the Page of Cups. Air with water is the Page of Cups. And I'll post this on the Instagram. I'll post all the court cards and how they line up, because it's something that I came up with today that I think is helpful. So, for instance, water, if they're with an air sign or in a relationship with the air sign, they become the Page of Cups. And so then earth with water, this would make water the King of Cups. And so earth brings to water signs stability and form. Earth reminds water to be in their bodies, to enjoy this earth realm, and helps water to understand the importance of clear boundaries in their life and in their relationships and their work. And so it's a bit of a sobering energy for water, which can be really nice. But it's important for earth not to box water in, which would make water like a deep well, right? So we want more of walls of a canal or like the banks of a river, right? So it's creating form, but it's not controlling. So this actually helps water to manifest their abilities. Security is quite important to water. Water needs a container. Otherwise, it's going to dry up, or it's going to disappear or evaporate. Lily Tomlin is a Virgo, and her partner of like about 45 years, Jane Wagner, is a Pisces. This is a solid pairing, earth and water. Gloria Estefan and Emilio Estefan also have been married for a really long time. Gloria's a Virgo, Emilio is a Pisces. So there feels like, if you think about like adding earth to water, adding water to earth, it makes like a solid soil if they're in rightful balance with one another. Since they don't have air and fire, it might need some communication and some inspiration to get them going and moving, but it's a great combination. It's complementary. Water with water. This is our last one. Saving the best for last. Water with water. Wow. Queen of Cups. This is the most creative and watery of combos. These two can go deep into the realms of sexuality, sexual healing, mystery together. These two, that's if it's a romantic partnership, but also as friends, they go into the depths together. And so these two know what each other are feeling. They hold the power to take each other to places that they've never been before. And so this couple should, of course, remember to visit their element of earth, their polar sign. Otherwise, it might get too dreamy and romantic, even idealistic. Right? So they may find themselves having struggles with finances or with earth or their health. And so it's important not to swing too far into the other realm. So they might make a point to overwork, to make money, to have a structured home. They might be really nitpicky about what they're eating together, encouraging each other to work out so they don't float off into the unknown, and that's great. But it's also important for water and water to remember that that's their connection. And it's to find a balance. They need to come back to earth, but when they do, they need to remember their mystical, creative, artistic partnership. This is Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love. Kurt Cobain is a Pisces, Courtney Love is a Cancer. This is Prince Charles and Diana, Scorpio and Cancer. Prince Charles is Scorpio, Diana and Cancer. And so getting lost in fantasy, right, is something that I think might have happened with that combo. And so, yeah, that is my way of interpreting the way the elements line up. And so, again, you can deepen this practice by looking at your moon signs in partnerships, looking at your rising signs, looking at your Venus is great in relationships. And we can also deepen it by looking at the modalities and the tiers that they're on as well. And so if this is something y'all are interested in, I could maybe put together a webinar for this specific topic. And also looking at synergy of charts as well. And so it's too much to get into on the podcast, but if that's something you're interested in, holler at me, let me know. And so at this point, we're going to transition into the Queen of Libra. And so let's do that now. And so here on the show, we're working on a series right now that's called The Queen of the Zodiac. And so the way it works is I pick the 16 most legendary women that I think would create great conversation around the astrological sign that we're currently in. And so right now I picked 16 Libra women, and you all narrowed it down to 8 this past week. And then we're now at our final 4. And so I'm going to update you on that. And so first up, we had Gwen Stefani going up against Bell Hooks. And so Gwen Stefani is a Libra Sun, Mercury, Uranus, Jupiter, and point of fortune. From launching her own fashion line to collaborating with other legends like Eve, Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg, we've witnessed Gwen grow from a pop-punk ska performer as the lead singer of No Doubt to becoming a Grammy Award-winning solo artist. She's also had an unfolding romance on The Voice with Blake Shelton, giving us that romantic side of Libra. And her eyebrows, which Brandon Alter talks about this in the interview you'll hear, are on point, and they're giving us the harmony and balance of the Libra scales. But she's often been criticized of cultural appropriation as well. And so the votes came in, and you all chose Bell Hooks by about 70% of the votes to move into our final 4. Then up next, we have Serena Williams going up against Kate Winslet. And Kate Winslet is a triple Libra. She's a Libra sun, moon, and rising. She's also got her Pluto and point of fortune in Libra. And so she has given us the intellectual, poised, and beautiful nature of a Libra in many of her roles, especially as the leading lady in the epic romance Titanic. But her characters also explore Libra's evolution through Aries as angst-ridden women. That's a quote, angst-ridden women with strong dispositions finding their way out of situations. And so at the end of the day, though, you all were feeling Serena Williams' balance between masculine and feminine, and her advocacy of social equality and women's health. And so Serena Williams beat Kate Winslet out. So we've got bell hooks and Serena Williams in our final four. Up next, Carrie Fisher goes up against Annie Leibovitz. And so Annie is a Libra Sun, Mercury, and Neptune, and is a legendary portrait photographer who worked for Rolling Stones for over 10 years. She's also the last person to photograph John Lennon in that legendary photo of John Lennon and Yoko Ono together. And John Lennon is also a Libra. And they have the same triple tier: Libra Sun, Aquarius Moon, and then Aries Rising. And so Annie was a photographer for Rolling Stones for over 10 years. She exudes a social intelligence and a keen eye for capturing the raw beauty of human emotion and relationship, giving us that Libra high vibe. She even says in an interview that ideas emanate off the person, which feels very Libra to me. And so she explains in her masterclass this interaction with people. But in the end, Carrie Fisher, who played the defiant heroine in Star Wars Princess Leia, was giving y'all more of that high vibe Libra feel. And then finally, India.Arie, who we know and love, we listened to her on the show last week, went up against Amma. And so India.Arie is a 4-time Grammy-winning R&B singer. She exudes a confidence with a strong demeanor and radiant beauty that connects us to Libra's harmonious blend of masculine and feminine energy. And she's grown from a young Libra singing about the importance of self-love and relationships to now evolving into a soul-centered Libra owning her meditative power of storytelling to connect us to the energy of the goddess through beauty, love, and peace. And I gotta say, India.Arie is giving us such high vibe Libra. And this vote between her and Amma was 50-50. And so let me tell you a little bit about Amma. Amma's a Libra Sun, Mercury, Neptune, and Saturn. And she is a Hindu spiritual guru, often referred to as the hugging saint. And so the sweet manner in which Amma laughs and jokes with people, shares in their success and failure, has endeared millions to her throughout the world. And many of her followers see her as their lifelong confidant and friend. And so she also founded an ashram which aids in community building, disaster relief, and empowering women. And I gotta say, India.Arie and Amma are both giving peace in such a beautiful way. And 50-50. It came down to one vote. And so every vote matters. And in the end, I'm sad to say, India.Arie lost by one vote to Amma, making our final four Serena Williams, bell hooks, Carrie Fisher, and Amma. And so next week, we're going to have a Libra panel, and we'll crown the first ever Queen of Libra. And so we have that to look forward to. Wow, I learned so much with you all. So thank you for all of the votes and the support and reaching out. And yeah, so now we're going to transition to this last part of the show where we're actually going to sit down with a couple. They're giving us fire and air. And so let's tune into that now. So I'm feeling really excited because we have not one but two incredible humans with us on the show today. And to make it even better, the two of them share such a deep love for one another. And so even though they aren't Libras themselves, by getting to know the two of them, the bond that they share and the way that they support one another and collaborate, we're really getting to feel into the energy of that Libra high vibe. And so today we have husbands Brandon Alter and Angel Lopez on the show. And so thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, sir.
I'm so excited to have you here. And Brandon and Angel, if you don't know them already, they're the founders and the co-hosts for the podcast, The Spiritual Gayz, which is a twice monthly podcast dedicated to exploring the wide reaches of spirituality without pretending that it all makes sense. And so we're going to talk about your podcast today and all of your offerings. But first, let's just acknowledge the Libra energy we're in. And so we were just talking about this before we started recording, but we're still in that little bit of Libra moon as we're gathering. And so how was the Libra new moon for y'all?
It was spiky. It was fun and spiky. It provoked us to have a really good conversation in like a very Libra as ruled by Venus and Scorpio type of way. So we kind of, we did like a little mini ritual, which is, I think, like kind of opened up some places in our relationship to be seen more deeply. And we were able to move through it.
Yeah, we're not afraid of communication. So I feel like, in the spirit of Libra New Moon, we definitely like allowed ourselves into a communication about our relationship.
Absolutely. And I know both of you have like pretty strong Aries in your chart too.
Mm-hmm. We do.
Yeah. So Libra, we know, evolves through this energy of Aries. And so we could say that the same is true for your relationship as well, because you both exude such a powerful sense of individuality with your offerings. And so I thought it would be cool for us to kind of start with your individuality, and then we'll go into your relationship. And so let's start with you, Brandon, since we met first.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Brandon is an intuitive healer, a tarot reader, a teacher, and a writer living in Los Angeles, and he is passionate about sharing spiritual tools that have helped him reconnect to the wisdom of his heart. And so currently, Brandon, you write a monthly tarot and astrology column on Queerty.
I do, yeah. For the new moon, I do tarot scopes with a little bit of whatever I've been thinking about or meditating on with the new moon energy, and just trying to make these skills very accessible. I feel like that's where you and I both like have a lot in common, is like wanting to make these ancient practices, be it astrology or tarot or energy healing or what have you, like accessible for anyone so that everyone has access, and it doesn't have to be this like elitist or difficult to understand practice. It can be very simple and intuitive.
And so do you think that's Aquarius?
Yeah, actually, I think it is Aquarius in a way, right? Because it's like, I want everyone to have equal access to the water. Like, no matter how you grew up or like what your income is or what your background is, like I want everyone to have access to these skills. Mm-hmm. But I also think there's a bit of like my Taurus North Node there too, because Aquarius, like we can go all the way out there. Like we can get into some like crazy esoteric alien shit, and I love that. But when it's time for like teaching or sharing or writing, the more I can like dial it down and like make it just really tangible and understandable, I think the better, you know?
Absolutely. And I like that you brought your Taurus North Node in there, because that's such like an integral part of like the person that I know, that's Brandon. And like the first time that we met in the physical form, because we were kind of connected online before, was, I think it was at Luke's breathwork at Yogala. And
yes,
I looked over, it was at the end, we were like doing a check-in, and I was like, who is that gorgeous human with all the amazing rings on?
Yes.
And so your North Node in Taurus is super hype, and you also are someone that like took me under my wing when I first got to LA, and you've taken me on like epic hikes in the canyons, and so you're deeply connected to nature as well, and like you're grounding that energy. And so you're also a breathwork practitioner. You study shamanic practices, astrology as well. But I think I want to focus on the tarot with you. And so for starters, what is a tarot scope for someone that might not know what that is?
Yeah, totally. So a tarot scope it's like a horoscope, except that in addition to looking at what the planet's influence might be, I pull a card for every sign. And so I use that card as like the lens through which I'm kind of looking through. And I imagine that card kind of in conversation with whatever else might be happening astrologically.
Mm. And so you just released a set of these because it's the new moon, right? You release on every new moon.
They come out every new moon, ideally like the day of or maybe a day or two before. And I ask for these tarot scopes to be relevant for the whole, what I call a moonth, MOONTH, meaning like from new moon to new moon. So it's valid for like those 28, 30 days.
Mm-hmm. And so you have such a cool way of creating like the vernacular of it, or the way that you like you talk about it is also like really playful and is also like very queer adjacent. And so you also co-founded Queer Heart Circle in LA, which is a meetup in Barnesdale Park for queer folk. And so what is it that calls you to working with this specific population?
It's such a great question. You know, I will work with anyone, but I think that as a queer person in the world, I am uniquely qualified to work with queer issues, particularly like growing up with a lot of shame. And of course, we all have shame for different reasons. You don't have to have grown up gay to have shame. I think in this capitalistic, patriarchal society, we kind of all have shame for different reasons, because we, you know, most of us don't fit into the mold that we were told we needed to fit up into when we were growing up. But I think for me at this time in my life, it's really important to offer my gifts to my immediate community. And also I have found so much healing and so much freedom in my own self through, you know, breath work and tarot and these spiritual skills that I've been practicing on myself. I feel just so much more connected and expansive and like connected to like who I really am. It took, you know, like 30 years to get here because I spent most of my 20s like trying to pretend I was somebody else. And I just want to help give people those skills so that they can do it more quickly than I did. You know, like you can step into your authenticity and your expansiveness immediately. It's just a question of how deeply can you love and accept what you find, and how willing are you to release some of those old stories that aren't even yours to begin with. You know, I always talk about like the voices in our head usually aren't even our own, like they came from our grandparents or our teachers or even the society, because at the end of the day, you would never talk to yourself in a negative way. You just wouldn't do that. So helping people in that way is kind of where working with the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and allied community. But I think anyone can identify as queer. You know, like even if you're a cisgendered heterosexual, you can identify as queer if you don't feel as though you fit the mold. Queering just means that we're looking at things from a different point of view. We could also think about it like astrologically, when a planet is in like its fall, you know, like when like Venus in Scorpio, is that her fall? Or is that her detriment? You know, like these houses where planets don't like to be. Another way to look at that is just that what we expect a planet to do, it doesn't do when it's in those places. But that doesn't mean it's bad. Mm-hmm. So I think we can like queer ourselves. Like even though we're not doing what society expects us to do, doesn't mean that there's any negative connotation to what we want to do or how we want to behave or present ourselves in the world.
Boom, boom, boom. Soul-centered Aquarius right there.
Soapbox. There we go.
Yes. And so in the tarot scopes, you say, I think it's like tarot scopes that slay, or what is it? What is the...
Yeah, they're tarot scopes that slay, honey.
So is there a tarot card that might be slaying you right now?
Oh, a tarot card that's slaying me. You know, I would say for my whole life, the Seven of Swords always slays me. To me, it's a card about like integrity, about having the courage to shine lights on the parts of yourselves that you don't want to shine lights on, making sure you're not like lying to yourself, telling the truth on yourself, making sure you're walking your talk, no spiritual bypass. So that's a card that always slays me. It likes to show up just to make sure that like I'm really honoring the agreements that I've made with myself and not letting myself off the hook. So that card usually slays the shit out of me.
And so if you're picking up what Brandon's putting down, Brandon has a tarot course coming up in Los Angeles, which I think is a 3-week course. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm actually just finishing up this class. I call it Tarot and Vino. Tonight's the last of the 3 classes down in San Diego, and I'm going to start a week from Thursday on October 18th at this great restaurant in Hollywood, California called Spoonfed. And so these are 3 2.5-hour classes that will truly give you everything you need to begin to start to read cards for yourself and others. So the first week we delve into the major arcana. The second week we dive into the 40 pip cards. And the third week we dive into the court cards and we do practice readings. And I I say, like it's about the tarot, but really like through the tarot, we're learning how to discover your intuitive gifts. So it's really about like learning, how do you receive messages? How do you connect to yourself in a psychic way, and having fun with it. So that's why we call it Tarot and Vino, because everybody gets wine tasting and food, and you get your own deck. And, there's a very Taurus North Node element to it. We're taking it seriously, but we can be playful with it.
Definitely. I was thinking the same thing. Beautiful. And so I didn't think about this until now, but I know on the show, on your podcast, you sometimes introduce one another.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, Brennan, would you like to introduce your husband?
Oh my God, I'd love to. Angel Lopez is a man that straddles the world of entertainment and the world of spirituality. He has been a professional astrologer for over 20 years. And he's also a producer of film and television. He is a writer and a director and the love of my life.
Oh.
Gorgeous.
Thanks, honey. That's sweet.
Thanks for being on the show today as well, Angel.
You're welcome.
And so that's something that I would like to talk about, is this straddling between two different worlds. And so you're a film producer and a writer. And so let's maybe start there. So Angel produced the Sundance Film Festival award-winning film Dear White People. And you also recently finished producing Bad Hair, which has Vanessa Williams and Laverne Cox. And maybe could you tell us a little bit about your connection to production and also to writing?
Yeah. I've always loved film. It was always, I think, a way for me to, fall into another world ever since I was a kid. I'm a very, very much a 12th house baby, with lots of planets there. So I think that sort of, gives me that drive to sort of dive in to all things artistic and creative. But yeah, I just sort of honestly kind of fell into it through my passion for writing and sort of following those breadcrumbs toward a film career, and just started working at a few studios in sort of assistant levels, and I worked my way up and met Justin Simeon, who is a filmmaker, and we've been friends for a long time, and then sort of came aboard his first movie, Dear White People, and we produced that and made that and had a blast doing so. And we just recently made his movie Bad Hair, which is like a horror satire set in the late 80s. And it was such a good time, and I'm so excited for people to see it. Probably sometime next year.
I can't wait. Yeah. So what is the intersection for you? Because you also are like deeply immersed in astrology, and for about 20 years now, and you hosted the AOL.com astrology web series, Astro Talk with Angel. You write the blog Astrology Realness, and you've had pieces published in the Huffington Post and Upworthy.com. So what is the intersection between film and astrology for you? And is there one? Are these like two different sides of yourself?
No, I think it was two different sides for a long time. And I think that was like the greatest challenge for me, because it definitely created sort of this wedge in my authenticity and fully being able to claim my authentic self. And it's really just been through, I guess I'd say probably in the last like 6, 7 years, 8 years, which coincidentally coincides with my relationship with Brandon. I would say like this relationship has been a real boost for me in moving closer toward just who I am. So it's been interesting being able to sort of work, the spirit side of me into my film world. And, back in the day when people used to ask me, what I did, I would almost hide the astrology part of me, because I just didn't want to feel judged for it. You're sitting at lunch with like an agent from some big agency, and like you tell them that you're an astrologer, and their like eyes sort of glaze over, and they immediately write you off as like a crackpot. And of course, this was also like 10 years ago. So now the more I've learned to claim it for myself, now I'll sit across from people and either, sort of say it off the top. And, now I think because A, the time we live in is different, but B, also just my own sort of personal owning of it. They're usually, I'm usually met with, oh my God, really? Tell me everything. And this immense fascination in it.
Yeah. This is so fascinating for me to hear, because this is the story of Aries evolving through Libra. And so there's this sense of what I heard you say is that when you started maybe dating Brandon, which would take you into Libra, right? Aries going into partnership, it then unlocked your ability to come back to your Aries nature of being a fierce individual and what you're pursuing. Have you thought, so you're an Aries sun, maybe we'll start there. So how do you see your sun sign reflected in the work that you do?
Well, I'm definitely a loud voice in the room. And I definitely, love to sort of jump onto projects immediately. I'm pretty good about getting things started. Not so great at finishing them. But that's why partnership is so important, because, it's then getting the right people to help you bring it across a finish line. I actually do have my North Node in Libra in the 6th house, which I think is kind of interesting in that, it does really sort of awaken too when it sort of gets into really, sort of working partnerships. Not so much when the partnerships aren't aligned. But I would definitely say that the Aries is very much alive too because of the creativity element. Also, everything I do has some sort of creativity infused in it. I always even look at my astrology work when I work with a client. It's I go into it with this mentality of sort of, let me help you get in touch with the story of your life. So to me, that is very much sort of how we are, creators of our lives on one hand too. So I guess that's sort of an Aries outlook on it all.
Definitely. So we've got this beautiful example of an Aries that is also with an Aquarius, and so let's start talking about the two of you together and how it all works. So when did you first two meet? Maybe we'll start there.
Yeah, it's been about 8 years.
Yeah, it'll be 8 years in. We're in October, so I guess it was 8 years ago.
8 years ago, yeah, this month that we met for the first time.
Yep.
I took a Pilates class that Brandon was teaching.
The short version of what could be a very long story is that we had two very close girlfriends, my good friend Brittany and Angel's good friend Julie, and they behind closed doors kind of schemed to set us up together, and they did it in the most low-key way possible, and they just had him come and take a Pilates class that I was teaching. Unfortunately, I had been coming down with strep throat that day, so I was really off my game when Angel came in to take that Pilates class.
Yeah, I was like, why is this man teaching Pilates right now? He should be at home in bed.
Yeah.
He's going to get me sick.
And I should have been at home in bed, and I did get him sick.
Yeah, I was sick the next day.
But then a couple weeks later, I was out at a club, and Angel had just come from a dinner party where
I had proclaimed that I was through dating. I was at a dinner party. I started deleting all the dating apps off my phone. I was like, I don't want to date anymore. I'm over it. And
Aries realness.
And I got a phone call on the way home from that same girlfriend, Julie, who said, come to this club. I said, girl, if there's a spot right in front, I will come. Otherwise, I'm going home to bed. And sure enough, a car pulled out right under the sign for the club as I pulled up. And so I parked, walked right in, and Brandon was there.
Yeah, and then we ended up closing the club down. We went back to Julie's house. She made us turkey sandwiches, and we started talking astrology.
Yeah, and that was actually in talking about astrology and actually knowing what he was talking about obviously turned me on. And my friend said to him, well, be careful because Angel actually is an astrologer. And so Brandon was like, oh, really? And we really sort of dove in. And that was actually the moment where I thought, okay, you know what? I could probably date this guy. He speaks my language.
And then, in true like Aries fashion, because I am a full blown Aquarius, but I have a lot of, Jeff knows I've got a stellium in Aries. So we sealed the deal very quickly. Like, I think not even like a month later, we were exclusive and like boyfriends, and we never looked back.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I just got the chills because I didn't actually realize astrology was like really what like sealed the deal for you. It sounds like.
Well, completely.
Yeah.
I mean, how many, I don't know if you have had this experience, but for me, when I was dating, that was something, like having a spiritual connection with someone was so important to me. And, it was either not completely in the cards at all, or it was, just not the same language. And that was really important to me, to have a partner who I could kind of like, say what needed to be said, and they could at least understand me. They didn't have to agree with me, but they could certainly understand me. So I was grateful to like have that opportunity.
Yeah, and astrology is a language we use all the time.
Oh, yeah.
It's so inspiring to me because I don't really know that many couples that do that, and specifically gay couples. And that's kind of why I wanted to have y'all on the show. So what was your first thought? Like, what does an Aries think of an Aquarius, like at the beginning of a relationship, and vice versa? Did you have like some stereotypes about the other? Or
I mean, honey, my mom is an Aquarius, and so I was already like, great, I'm dating my mom. And I also have like my best girlfriend who is an Aquarius. So I definitely like knew how to communicate with the Aquarius. And it was funny to even see certain traits. I mean, and I hate saying it because no one really ultimately wants to like marry their mother, but at the same time, my mother's lovely, so I guess it's fine. But it was funny to like see some of those traits play out just in Brandon. I would feel like I was like at home, which was a really good thing, to feel at home with him so easily. And I think the great thing is, Brandon definitely pulls me out of my comfort zone because I don't have a ton of air, so pulling me out to like communicate about things is like really hard, but obviously incredibly important. So
yeah, what we're able to do with this like air fire combo is like I'm able to bring air to like combust, to get Angel going, and he's able to bring fire to my air, which sometimes can like stay up in the mental realm and never like make any action. So it really like I think fire and air work really well together. Mm-hmm. Just sometimes it can get really feisty, and that's and that's fun too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think, because I actually have experienced like the lower form of an Aquarius-Aries relationship. So it's really nice to hear the higher form of it, because for me as an Aquarius that dated an Aries, like I totally got my heart broken. Like Aries has been the only sign that has really like broken my heart. What do you think is like, so you're kind of getting us into it, but what is it like being an Aries-Aquarius couple? And I think innovation is like a word that's coming to mind right now.
For sure. I think both for Aries and Aquarians, innovation is very important. I would say like it's a relationship of two leaders.
Yeah.
And two individuals. I mean, yeah, every so often we'll like get dressed to go out, and I'll look at him and I'll be like, okay, we're wearing the same thing. But that's about as far as it goes, like
completely.
Yeah, and funnily enough, then the Aquarius in me is like, cool. Well, none of us should change. We should just carry on with these outfits.
And I'm like, good, because this is my only clean thing.
Yeah. But that's certainly, I think, one defining characteristic is it really is a partnership of two individuals, and we have also both, like in the same way that Angel shared that like getting in relationship with me has encouraged him to expand into his authenticity, the same thing is true for me too. I mean, getting in relationship with Angel gave me the safe place, the container to really expand and to take big creative risks and to know that it was okay to fail because I had this like soft, fertile, nurturing relationship to return to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and wouldn't you say I'm also like the most inspiring person you know?
The most. The most.
But yeah, no, I think that is something that people always, friends will always say to me, because they'll be like, oh, if I'll show up somewhere by myself, they'll be like, where's Brandon? I'll be like, oh, he's teaching a workshop or he's taking a class, or he went to go visit his mom, and they'll be like, wow, I'm so impressed with how you sort of effortlessly you two will just kind of do your own thing. And it's never sort of, hiding some sort of like problem that we're having. It's really so much about, oh yeah, well, I support you doing you and you support me doing me. And if it's important for the other to be to be at the thing, then we'll communicate that to each other, and then we're there to support each other. And there are certain things that we obviously love to do together. But at the end of the day, like, I have to drag Brandon to go to the movies. So if he doesn't want to go, then I'll take somebody else with me and we'll call it a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's not untrue. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get better about going to the movies, but it's my contrarian Aquarius. Like, I'm not interested in the movie until like 5 years after everyone's been talking about it.
And then he's like, oh my God, have you seen this?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Have you seen Ex Machina? It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like 5 years ago.
Everybody has.
Awesome. Yeah, so this episode is dedicated to more deeply understanding not just Aries Aquarius couples, but I'm also going to be talking about the way signs line up together, and so also elementally as well. And so any tips or tricks or dialogue you might have around your experience with astrology and how the zodiac signs line up relationally.
Oh, yeah. Well, the biggest, I think, honestly, one of the most defining astrological characteristics of our relationship is that we have opposing moons. Mm-hmm. Angel is a Cancer moon, and I'm a Capricorn moon.
And girl, don't we know it?
And I just would encourage everybody to learn so much more than just what your, partner or the person you're dating sun sign is, because that's really just like, that's like judging a book by its cover. Like, you really need to know, I think, the moon, because your moon is your needs. It's your heart. And in relationship, that's really what you're tending to. So I think about like the love languages, and when you know somebody's moon, you're really getting like a deep understanding of how they receive love and how they get their needs met. So, I mean, Angel and I have, I think, expanded and learned through each other. Like what Angel needs emotionally is basically like the opposite of what I need.
Yeah.
So we're learning how to work with that and through it.
So what does a Capricorn Cancer moon relationship look and feel like?
I know, right? We're like, you stumped us.
Yeah.
I mean, what does it look like? I mean, it can look a little hot and cold.
Yes, for sure. Well, because a Capricorn moon really wants to like solve the problem and like fix the root of the emotion. It wants to turn the emotion into fuel as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and the Cancer moon just kind of wants to like take that emotion and like wrap itself in it and like eat a bag of popcorn just for like an hour.
Yeah, so like when Angel comes home with a problem, I immediately go into like warrior goddess and I'm like, how do we fix this? Who do I have to kill? Like, let's make this happen.
Yeah, and I'm like, let me just finish crying about it first, and then I can go there.
Totally. And then conversely, part of my journey with a Capricorn moon is just learning to carve out more space and time for my emotions. Because whereas Angel, I always say, like, Angel can have a bad day. He can come home. He can come into our little spirit room and he can cry it out. Like, he has access to his emotions that effortlessly. Whereas for me, the tears don't come that easily. And oftentimes they come way after the fact. So for me, it's just honoring the emotion whenever it comes, because it's not always a reservoir that I have access to.
So I was wondering when it was going to come up, but I heard you just drop the spirit room there. So
we're in it right now.
Let's talk about the spirit room. What is the spirit room?
The spirit room is this space in our home that, initially began as sort of our office. But it has transformed itself into sort of the spiritual center of our home. It's where sort of every artifact we've collected exists. It's where all of our altars exist, including our altar to Brandon's drag queen lady persona, Brandonna Summer.
Yes.
It's sort of where we, meet with any sort of clients, when we do healing work. It's just kind of like this safe little womb in our home.
I had a good friend of mine who's an amazing sound healer come over a couple of, maybe 6 years ago. And he gave me a private sound bath in this room. And he said to me, this room is the heart of your house. And that always resonated with me. And so we've just kind of taken that and we've run with it. And this room is not just the heart of our house, but it's the spirit of our house as well. And I really feel like the energy that we've cultivated here through our individual readings and healings, through the work that we do here together, like it is such a sanctuary. And it's also been a really great experiment in like how to build and generate like an energetic vortex, you know, like this space over a lot of dedicated time and effort. Like it's very much like Teflon, you know, like we have people coming in and out of here all the time and nothing sticks to it. It gets cleared really regularly, but at the same time, like there's a lot of good vibes here. Like it's very vibey. Like you can feel it walking in. So, so even though, you know, it is a place and a space, I feel very confident that like were we to have to move somewhere, we would be able to take a lot of the energy of the spirit room with us.
Oh yeah.
And certainly a lot of the artifacts and objects, and you can create that spirit room. You take it with you wherever you go. You know, like there's a little piece of the spirit room with me. So even if I like am teaching a workshop or a class somewhere else, I'm still able to call upon that energy.
Yeah. And not just the spirit room. I also think that your entire home, which I've been to before, is just a reflection of your relationship. And I know that in your hallway you have framed 2 medicine cards that the 2 of you pulled on your wedding day. And so I kind of want to go into this Libra theme of commitment. And so when did the 2 of you decide to get married?
We decided to get married, well, it was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
This month that you proposed.
October 29th.
Yeah.
At the Madonna concert down in San Diego.
Yes. It was an incredibly romantic weekend. Brandon really like pulled out all the stops, proposing to me at this concert and then throwing me a surprise
engagement party, which was pretty cocky to assume that he was going to say yes. And then like we had friends that like flew in from New York, and then we all went up to Ojai for like, you know, a night or two just to celebrate. And it was pretty over the top, which is a tendency I have.
Yeah. But I think is like the whole ability for, you know, for gays to get married, you know, came to be. It became incredibly important to me to want that in my life. And I had felt like Brandon was definitely the person that I wanted to make that commitment to. Again, as I had said, you know, I'd been looking for a long time for someone who just felt right, and he definitely felt right. So I also, you know, started to make it known that that was something that was important to me, and it was something that wasn't that important to him initially.
No, I mean, as a contrarian Aquarius, I was like, what the fuck do I want with marriage, this institution that literally has been keeping me out of it and doesn't want me to be a part of it? Like, what do I want that for? I don't need a marriage certificate to validate my relationship. But what changed my mind was that it was important to Angel. And so then it became important to me to be able to give that to him. And when we really like, after we were engaged and we were really thinking about like, what is our wedding? What is our marriage going to look like? I got really excited because I said, well, this is an opportunity for us as a couple to do whatever the fuck we want. And it's not about pleasing our parents or our grandparents or our families or society. It's an opportunity for us to like come out of the closet, particularly as like spiritual weirdos.
Oh yeah.
And do things our way and really honor our relationship. And the most like, you know, spiritually wacky thing that we did, which totally worked, is I said, we have to respect that our wedding already exists perfectly in a future place and time, and all we have to do is listen forwards to it to understand where, how, and what the wedding itself is going to be. And that's how we did it. Like, if things felt too challenging, if things fell out, we were like, well, that's not what it's supposed to be. And in that way, we really kind of came to what I'm sure both of us would say was like one of the most magical weekends of our life. Yeah. I mean, our wedding ceremony was ceremony with a capital C. It was shamanic as fuck. It was astrological as fuck. Everybody got crystals. I mean, it was a Joshua tree. Like, we really...
Yeah. I mean, I always feel like, you know, the Aries and Aquarius kind of meet in the middle of Pisces, and it was definitely a Pisces-esque weekend in that regard. And our relationship has a very sort of Pisces flair to it.
Well, we're also both 12th house suns, so that's a lot of it.
Right. Wait, can you say that again, Angel, that about where Aquarius and Aries meet? And I kind of want to get into that a little bit more. That's really cool.
Yeah, I just was saying that, you know, Aquarius and Aries, we sort of meet in the middle of Pisces. You know, that's kind of our middle ground in between us. So, you know, I think that was sort of part of like our whole spiritual connection, and why our marriage itself, even, the actual ceremony of it, was such a reflection of that. And to Brandon's point too, we are both 12th house suns, so we bring a 12th house sun, so we bring a lot of Pisces energy to the table. But just, I always find that interesting, the whole sort of intersection of, even if you just looked at us on a chart, where we would walk, if we were walking through a chart, toward each other, we would find ourselves in the midst of Pisces, and we very much are that.
Yeah, we're very happy there.
Yeah, so you have a lot of, because you both have Aries stelliums. I'm looking at your chart here. Brandon, we just learned that you have Black Moon Lilith as well as Eris, like conjunct to your Venus and Mars. Pretty much, they're all like hanging out together.
They are. And they're like trying to topple that emperor, and they're doing a pretty good job.
And they're all rising, because you're an Aries rising, which I don't even think we talked about yet. And so when we look at Brandon's chart and then line up Angel's stellium in Aries, which is Sun, also Eris, Venus, Mercury, South Node, and then Chiron's kind of hanging out there too at the 0 degree of Taurus. So we have all of these planets hanging out. So I guess when we're looking at them, they're hanging out like in the 12th and the 1st house. And so what's Venus Aries with a Venus Aries then? Like, is that the like commitment, like really like starting off like the relationship and being like, this is the one? I don't know, some dialogue around the two Venus and Aries would be cool.
Yeah, I think that is something that probably sort of, is a marker of that. Because I always looked at Venus and Aries before then, for my single life, as like, yay, I found you, it's 3 months, bye. So it was always very like, like I burnt through them quick. And so I guess, to sort of find someone who, and I guess specifically being that 12th house Venus Aries for me, like someone who I needed someone who had that spiritual foundation to be in it. But I mean, I do think our Venus Aries connection, we keep each other on our toes, and we keep it incredibly interesting. Mm-hmm. And that's also probably why we're both so independent.
Right.
And so that when we come back together after little mini breaks away from each other, it always sort of reignites the flame to some degree.
Right.
I would agree with that for sure. I couldn't have said it better myself.
So we look to Venus, right, for relationship. It's a ruling planet of Libra. And so I think Venus is important when we're looking at a relationship as well, for the couple to see where their Venuses are. And right now Venus is in retrograde. Mm-hmm. And so have you noticed, since you've been together now for about 8 years, you notice anything that happens for you during Venus in retrograde as a couple?
Well, Angel and I work on our relationship a lot and all the time. Like, we're always in communication with each other. Mm-hmm. And we, especially as we've been together almost 8 years now, we try to talk about things as soon as they come up. But I do think that the Venus retrograde can expose or illuminate things that perhaps we glossed over, or that we didn't have a chance to fully communicate about. But I'm not sure if there's, I think she just went retrograde. So I think we'll be staying tuned for these next 40 days. Maybe we can, send you a little update and let you know.
Let's check in.
Yeah. But certainly having her in Scorpio has made things very spicy for us in the bedroom, so that's been nice.
Oh, hello.
And not only has Venus been in Scorpio, but Jupiter's been in Scorpio this year too. And so a lot of the reflection that I've heard with Jupiter and Scorpio has been like more of the collective culture, like with shadows around sexuality emerging, like with the #MeToo movement, or what we just saw with the court case with Dr. Ford a couple weeks ago. But what has Jupiter and Scorpio been like for a couple, and what are you sensing with this transition into Sag coming up for us in a month?
I think that's a great question. I think it's been twofold, because I always believe what we experience collectively starts in the personal, our world is just a perfect mirror. And so I think in relationship this past year with Jupiter and Scorpio has allowed both of us to expose and work through our shadows with each other. Mm-hmm. So I think we've both been looking at like negative self-beliefs, old stories can no longer serve us. This year, 2018, has been a huge transition year for both of us, personally, professionally, and otherwise. And it's been through exposing the shadows. And I also believe that like your shadow is just a part of yourself that you were told didn't have value. It was something that would embarrass you or was a liability. And when you really bring your shadow closer to your heart and you find out what it really wants and how it can serve you, it becomes your most powerful ally. I don't think like your shadows are something that like you can just let dissolve. It's like you rescue your shadow and then your shadow becomes a warrior to take you forwards. A simpler way to say it is like, if you were to give a little bit more love and respect to the things about yourself that you are ashamed of, those things would probably make you rich and famous. You know, it's like, it's the very things about yourself that you are afraid of somebody pointing out or exposing that if you owned them would deliver you to your bigger life.
Yeah, and I think it, you know, ultimately just to that is sort of coming out of the shame, you know, and that's definitely sort of in the midst of everything you just brought up, you know, collectively. But I think, yeah, as Brandon was saying, I think we've both been sort of coming to grips with, you know, old stories of shame that we've been dealing with and trying to release those. So I think even, I know for me, but us as a couple creating the spiritual gayz and putting that out there this year was very much about us exposing our deepest selves to everyone and, you know, sort of, you know, moving toward like growth and abundance through connecting to our deeper, you know, the deeper emotional core of who we are as people and who we are as a couple.
Yeah. And stopping the compartmentalization.
Yeah.
That happens like within yourself. You know, like Angel talked about, like, oh, I'm an astrologer, but I'm also a producer. And it's like, no, I'm an astrologer who's a producer, or a producer who's an astrologer. You know, like bringing my spirituality to my performance and my creativity. It's like, it's no longer compartmentalized. This is the river of my life and everything flows through it.
Yeah. And if you're really resonating with this language, you can hear more of this on their podcast, The Spiritual Gayz, because it's incredible. This past week, you had Emmy Award-winning Lena Waithe on the show as well, who was dropping truth bombs left and right. And so it's not just...
Yes. Yeah, she was giving a Super Soul Sunday to the hilt.
I was like, yes! And I kept like screenshotting because I was like, I got to go back and listen to this clip. So it's not just the two of you. You also have like deep felt conversations with other people that are in the community that you're friends with. And so it gives it this really like this nice warm feel to put on and to listen to. And what inspired you to start the podcast?
I was really wanting to have some sort of platform to just start talking about things that I was interested in and issues. And I didn't even really sort of give it the spiritual sort of bent. That was really, I think, Brandon's idea as I started talking about it. He's like, let's just make it about spirituality, but, you know, not take it too seriously. And that was sort of, I think, how we wanted to do, was have a playful, fun conversation about the things that we're already talking about, probably way too seriously. So it was also like an opportunity for us to kind of lighten up the topics. And also, as you just said, we have a lot of friends, you know, in both in the spirituality space, but in the entertainment space, in all types of spaces, but who are sort of trying to, you know, walk their talk through while also living their lives. And I think that was really ultimately what really got us excited about it, was how do you go out into the world and, you know, be a parent, a teacher, a writer, a tarot reader, a whatever, but, you know, also have a spiritual component to your life, and how does that come into play? And So I think that was really sort of the impetus for it, is wanting to like create a community and a space for people to come and feel like they could listen to people who maybe they could relate to, and talk about spirituality in a relatable way.
And girl, I'm an air sign, so you don't have to twist my arm to get me to want to talk about it.
Exactly.
So I was like, sign me up, please.
Yeah. And what I love about it is the part of your phrase that's without pretending it all makes sense.
Yes.
And so what's that about? Why was this like important for you to include?
This goes back to the Seven of Swords. I just like have real issue with people that present themselves as being gurus, as having all the answers. Because the fact is while we are still in form, there's a whole bunch of stuff we will never be able to understand or comprehend. And that's part of the magic, is honoring the mystery so much as honoring what is knowable. And I just think it's important to have the confidence to say, I don't know, and to open up space for spirit to come through. So we don't ever want to present ourselves as having all the answers, because we don't. That beautiful Rilke quote, which is about like living the questions and loving the questions, and maybe the answer comes to you, but it's not intellectually. The answer comes in how you live that question. So we just wanted to hold space for that. And also, we didn't want to present ourselves as authorities when we are expert beginners. I feel like even though Angel's been reading astrology for 20 years, I've had a tarot deck since I was 11, I'm always still learning. And I think that's the most important thing. Like, if you're taking class with a teacher, I hope they're still learning too, because I always say, like, if you're not, like learning and growing, you're just aging, and that ain't fun. So continuing to not age.
Yeah, and I guess in a way that ties into like, what you mentioned before, like Jupiter's move into Sag, and this whole now like transition into, now we've like awakened sort of all the buried pieces of ourselves, and now how can we sort of use that to, sort of learn even more about who we are, but also, become sort of the student teachers too, and sort of help, push everyone forward and get everyone toward their own level of personal growth and hopefully optimism, because that would be really nice for the collective.
Yeah, for sure.
I think so. Yeah. So I was talking to, I think it was Lindsay Mack about this earlier this week, who hosts Tarot for the Wild Soul, but there's sort of like a collective of podcasts that are out right now that I think if it was like a TV, it would all be on like the same channel. Yeah. And I definitely see like Spiritual Gayz is like very much related to Cosmic Cousins. Like if you're into this show, you'll probably definitely also be into the Spiritual Gayz. And so I'll put a link in the show notes for those of you that haven't checked it out yet. And the Spiritual Gayz, so it's Gayz. I also wanted to talk about this, but it's kind of, it's like a double entendre in a way. It's kind of like, also sounds like gaze, like Gaze as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that was Angel's. You can tell he's the writer. Because we are the spiritual gaze, but it's also, this is not limited to only homosexuals. It's about finding your own spiritual gaze, Gaze, and coming into this space, which is like the spiritual gaze.
Yeah, being one of our gazers.
Yeah, being one of our gazers. Gazing spiritually.
I love it. So, beautiful reflection of Libra that we're hearing. So we have two complete individuals that are embodying commitment, communication, and also collaboration with one another. But it's not just the two of you in a relationship. There's also a third party involved.
Yes, there is.
Can we talk about Noche?
Of course. What do you want to talk about?
We opened our relationship up. Yes.
True. Because when I looked at your website, you also have like Noche's little bio there too.
We do.
So Noche's a Leo sun.
Yes.
How does this manifest? Because people talk to me like, is astrology real for pets? And what would you say to answer that?
I think astrology is real for anything with a spirit.
Yeah. Like
not just like humans and animals, but also like projects, corporations, anything that like gets born, like has a chart. So I think it's true for everything.
Yeah, your projects can have energy, like astrological energy attached to them. But I mean, when we first got Noche, the woman, he was a rescue, and we were told that he was born probably, sometime in like the end of summer, July, August. And we were like, okay, so maybe, Cancer, maybe Leo, maybe, Virgo. And then after about 25 minutes with him, he was very much the attention seeker in the room.
Yeah, he's all Leo.
Pretty obvious.
So much so, like, if you come over to our house, he will bark at you immediately until you come through the threshold, kneel down, and pet him. And then he's your best friend. But it's like you have to greet him first. It's his house. It's his castle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I always want to greet him. He's so cute.
He is so cute.
He is very cute and very funny.
Mm-hmm.
He is very funny.
And so that's the third party, but there's also a fourth party as well. We also
another Leo, as it turns out.
So we also have Brandonna Summer. So could you tell us a little bit about this alter ego drag persona that you have, Brandon?
Yes, Brandonna Summer is the Empress of Self-Empowerment. She is an international woman of mystery, a heart-centered life coach to wayward teenage girls, a branding empire, and she is another opportunity for me to creatively express and heal the intersection between spirituality and trauma, honestly. And when I talk about, like, things I was ashamed of, like my desire to dress in women's clothes and to create this character, this persona that really is like the synthesis of all the strong females in my family. It was in relationship with Angel that I felt comfortable enough to really explore her. I wrote her a musical that I took to New York for the New York Fringe Festival. She's currently enrolled in a stand-up comedy class as she's developing new material for her one-woman show, Brandonna Summer Healing Through Living. But yeah, I mean, she is, what she is, Jeff, is she's my way of honoring the goddess and of finding the value of beauty and luxury, but in a way that isn't cheap or like materialistic, but really it's like I'm very perfect with her, with the makeup, with the hair, with the clothes, because she's a conduit for the goddess. And when the goddess shows up, I want her to realize that everything is exactly as she would have it. But Brandonna's very funny. And the thing is I think people do learn better through humor, because like when you're laughing, you're unaware of like what's actually like being slipped in. And so sometimes I feel like the things that maybe Brandon would say like very seriously, or, like you can tell like, my Capricorn moon, I can get very serious about things. With Brandonna, it's always very playful. There's always like a little wink and a little, there's a little shoulder shimmy. And so everybody loves her, but everybody's also learning through her and healing with her.
I know I am.
Yeah. And you can follow her on Instagram, and you should.
Yeah, so it sounds like Angel's in a relationship with two Leos and an Aquarius.
Oh, I am, honey.
That's amazing. I think, now that we're kind of talking about queens, we could transition into talking about the Queen of Libra.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I know that the two of you always vote. I'm always watching to see who the two of you are voting for. I always respect your votes. And so right now, our final four for Queen of Libra is Bell Hooks, Serena Williams, Carrie Fisher, and then today India.Arie goes up against Amma. And so I'd love to hear who you think is giving us that high vibe Libra feel. Who is your Queen of Libra?
Well, I just want to say I'm still mourning the loss of Gwen Stefani.
As am I.
But
just because she was given such Venus gorgeousness.
Such Venus gorgeousness. Her eyebrows are inspiration for Brandonna Summer always. So, man, I adore Carrie Fisher. Like, that's my personal call, because I think there's a lot that we have in common just in terms of like healing familial trauma through humor and vulnerability, and the way that she exposed herself in such a major way, I think is really amazing. But then I'm also like, how do you like not vote for Amma? But then I'm also like, Bell Hooks. It's hard. So
who's your choice?
Personally, this is not
You're
predictive.
being so Libra.
I know, I'm being so Libra about it. This is not predictive. This is personal. I would vote for Carrie Fisher. That's will be my Queen of Libra. Even though, see, I'm being so Libra about it. Even though I also think that Venus right now kind of is our contemporary Queen of Libra, just based on like what she's doing. Venus Williams.
It was Serena.
Or Serena Williams.
Yeah.
Just based on like what she's bringing awareness to, and just like, I don't know. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if she wins.
Mm-hmm.
My vote is for Serena. That's my prediction. I think Serena's going to take it. I think because she is definitely like just given like what happened recently, I think like talk about standing up for fairness and bringing to light sort of all of the like the sexism within the sport. Really being a voice for justice in that regard, yet at the same time having sort of that like Venus beauty element. The little video you posted with her singing, which I didn't even know she could sing, and she can. So I was definitely in it. Though I have had a hug from Alma before.
Oh,
that
you have?
Yes.
See, I didn't know that. Still learning after all this time. Yeah, I think Serena is very Venus and Scorpio. Like, so I would not be surprised if she took the crown, and I would be thrilled to have her take the crown.
Yeah, when you said Venus, it can get confusing because the ruling planet for Libra's Venus, and I found myself doing that a few times too.
Totally.
Yeah. So
she embodies it.
Yeah, she really does.
Mm-hmm.
They both do.
Yeah, they do. But especially the outfits that she's been bringing to the court. I mean, I'm here for it.
Mm-hmm. so it sounds like we have a Serena versus Carrie Fisher final too. That's the prediction that I'm hearing from the two of you. And so we'll find out next week who's crowned Queen of Libra. And so we're going to try this out too. I told you there's a little cosmic slip and slide that we do at the end of the show, which is a 60-second game where I ask you as many questions as you can answer. But this is going to be different. It's going to be how many questions can you answer about the Aries-Aquarius relationship? All
right. Well, you know, with all of our Aries stelliums, we're very competitive, so we're ready for a game.
All right.
Out the way, bitch.
So I'm pulling up the timer now.
Okay.
And I'll be interested to see how y'all do this. If you're both gonna answer the questions, or you know,
I'll be interested.
Yeah, I'm very interested as well.
Okay, so 60 seconds is on the clock, and we'll start now. What healing stone would you use for an Aries-Aquarius relationship?
Rose quartz.
I agree.
Who is more likely to go grocery shopping, Aries or Aquarius?
Aries.
I agree.
In 3 words, describe Aries and Aquarius at a party together.
Loud.
Funny.
Heartfelt.
What color most reflects an Aries-Aquarius relationship?
Red.
Besides Aries-Aquarius, which 2 signs are the zodiac's power couple?
Oh. Scorpio, Capricorn.
Dang. Which astrological sign is an Aries-Aquarius couple best friends with?
Oh. Probably another Aquarius?
Maybe like Aquarius, Libra, an air sign couple for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Which famous couple most embodies Aries-Aquarius relationship?
Oh, God.
Pass.
And we're right at time. Y'all did really well. I feel like you should get 2 points for each question.
Oh, wow. Well, then maybe we would tie with Anne Orderly, who really killed her cosmic
Yeah, that's
slide.
true.
Yes, she did. Not surprising there. So there seemed to be a unanimous red with the color.
Yeah.
For sure.
Maybe we don't need to talk about that one. I feel like that one feels pretty solid. What other ones would be? So who is more likely to go grocery shopping? We said Aries, right?
Yes, which is also because Angel is more likely to go grocery shopping, but also because I think as an Aquarius, I'm like, well, I can still innovate something out of what's left in the pantry and in the fridge, whereas the Aries is like, no, we need those other things.
I want this right now.
Exactly.
Okay, and the one that I thought was the coolest was, besides Aries, Aquarius, which 2 signs are the zodiac's power couple? You said Scorpio, Capricorn.
Yeah.
And and we both sort of intuited. We both looked at each other as we said Capricorn.
Yeah.
It just felt right. I mean, talk about badass boss energy,
Intensity.
inside and out.
Yeah.
Do you know a Scorpio Capricorn couple?
I don't know if we do.
We're going to have to do some research.
Yeah, I am going to dig into that just so I can like really sort of put it to the test.
Yeah, and if you are a Scorpio Capricorn couple and you're listening, reach out. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, totally.
I really want to know how that works.
Yeah, so it's been so fun connecting in this way with the two of you. Thank you so much for being on the show. Happy Libra season.
Oh, thank you for having us. This
Yeah.
was an honor and a pleasure for us. And thank you for your beautiful questions.
Yeah, and your beautiful offering
Yes.
of your podcast.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Oh, and happy anniversary too. It's coming up. What's the date?
Oh, well, our actual anniversary is November 19th.
Yes.
But October 29th is the day I proposed to Angel, and it was also my quitting smoking anniversary, which I think is going to be 5 years this October.
Congratulations.
Bravo.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot to celebrate this time of year for you.
Yes, for sure.
Mm-hmm. It's coming up.
Okay, I love you too. I hope to see you soon. Let's hang out.
Love you too, honey. Yes, let's hang out ASAP.
I would love that.
Well, that was lovely. Thank you for tuning into the show as always, cousins. I'm sending you love and I'm sending all of your relationships love during this beautiful, harmonious Libra season that we find ourselves in. Yeah, you can find out more info about the show and what I offer at astrologycousins.com. You can vote for Queen of Libra at cosmic.cousins on Instagram. You can sign up for the Patreon, patreon.com/cosmiccousins. And don't forget to leave some reviews and love and 5 stars. And I'll see you next week. Take sweet care, and remember, deep breaths.